Some days it's 3 sentences before I fall asleep. Some days it's 3 paragraphs. But it's the consistency of the fact that those things happen. Like you said, they're just on autopilot every single day is what makes them have that momentum and that power to stick with it and to have that consistency in those habits. And, but setting up these small micro things in your life that you're already doing. Maybe you're already grabbing your cup of coffee in the morning, but maybe for 30 seconds, you focus on how the mug feels, how the coffee smells, how it feels going down your throat. Science has shown just that small moment, your cortisol levels go down, your heart rate lowers. You add those continual moments throughout your day, you're continually putting your body in a better state. Plus, you're getting the dopamine hit of setting a goal and achieving it.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious. Motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to help you live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here sharing insights and inspirations to empower you on your journey. I want to thank you for tuning in. Your commitment to growth and self-discovery is truly what makes this community special. Now, today we're diving into some of the most important instruments the symphony of audacious living have to offer. Self-care, boundaries, mindset shifts, micro moments, and work-life balance. And I want you to think of life as an orchestra. Self-care is your tuning. Without it, everything sounds a little off. Boundaries act as the music sheet, keeping each section in rhythm and in order. A mindset shift is the moment the conductor lifts the baton and the melody changes, signaling a new direction. Micro moments are those quiet rests between the notes, brief pauses that give meaning to the music. And work-life balance, well, that's the harmony, the point where everything blends together beautifully, creating your own unique sound. I am totally thrilled to introduce today's guest, Daniela Wolfe. She's a licensed master social worker with nearly 30 years of experience in mindfulness, stress management, and personal growth. Daniela's mission is to empower individuals to design their best lives, one that's fulfilling and balanced and deeply audacious. Her expertise in burnout prevention and self-care strategies makes her the perfect guest for today's conversation. So without any further ado, let's strike the first note and dive into the interview with Daniela. Enjoy. Hey, Daniela, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Audley, for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I know it's great. I enjoy these conversations thoroughly. I've got to say, to have an opportunity to engage in dialogue with all sorts of ways or insights around how people can elevate their lives or get to a better place, if you will. And the whole idea of here you are, Daniela, you and I are going to engage in this conversation, and others have the opportunity to eavesdrop and listen in, and they potentially could take something from what we've said today and get themselves to a better place. That's just really, really, a blessing to be a part of. So I thank you for being here to help me, fulfill my own personal mission as well. Now, here on this podcast, we spend much time, encouraging individuals to live that best audacious life that we talk about. And, what really remind often, I think probably every episode, that best audacious life, it's very much a pathway, individual journey that we're all on. And it's going to be different. We're not on the same set of expectations or challenges or obstacles or setbacks or even the rewards. They're all different. So it's really about owning your own path, and your path might have things that are potentially harmful to you, and those are yours too that you got to figure out. And so for someone like yourself that sort of specializes in burning out or preventing people from burning out, I think this is sort of really in line with the work that you do on helping people understand these things that are on their path and how they can either avoid them, prevent them, or extinguish them altogether. And so maybe as a starting point, I get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about the work that you do and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you talk about your big audacious life. My business is Best D Life, and people have asked me, what is the D? Besides the fact that that's my nickname, people have called me D for years. It could stand for your best design life, your best detangled life, your best de-stressed life. We get one life. And so you should be running like your hair is on fire to the life you want to be living every single day. There's no next time, there's no second chance. Like, let's make this happen today. And it took me some time in my own life to figure some of this out. Obviously, I've been a professional licensed master social worker for almost 30 years. So while I'm clinically trained in mindfulness, stress management, coping skills, and helping other people manage their day-to-day life, sometimes I think as helpers, we're always great at putting our focus on everybody else and not so much at turning it on ourselves. And I ended up driving myself into my own burnout almost 20 years ago. I was going through a divorce. I was a single mom with 2 little kids, 4 and 6 months old. And I wanted to do it all, be it all. I'm a high achiever. I want to prove that I'm capable and show that I'm competent, and wasn't great at asking for help, was irritable, snapping at my kids, not showing up as who I wanted them to remember growing up, who I knew I could be. And by hitting my own kind of rock bottom moment and going through a burnout, I started to then turn the lens on myself and practice what I help so many other people with. And it started super small, simple gratitude practice, listing 3 to 5 things I was grateful for every day, whether it was the sun was out, someone held the door for me, these small moments. Our grocery store had free childcare at the time, which is great.
Oh, wow.
And had to work through my own kind of mindset of when I would run into people and they'd be like, oh, where are the kids? You don't have them with you. And letting go of that guilt and what I assumed other people's expectations were. So working on my mindset, changing how I was using my time, and then integrating more self-care throughout my day, and really busting open some of the myths of what I think people think of as self-care, and showing how it's sustainable on a day-to-day basis, not just a once in a while nice to have, but real practical daily self-care, like eating, sleeping, and brushing your teeth. You just integrate these micro moments every day. And so I just kind of found people were asking what I was doing, showing me moments they took for themselves because of something I said or did. And I think we're all looking for that validation and permission to live this kind of life, to do these things for ourselves. And that just kind of started my journey.
It sounds so. First of all, congratulations on that. I want to make sure, first and foremost, because that is a big deal, particularly when you're at that brink and you're like, oh my gosh, she's at the edge, and you're able to sort of reel yourself back in. And so I'm hearing that loud and clear. But also, what I'm also hearing is that you made sort of a number of sort of significant changes. They're not even significant, but minor changes. They don't have to be these big grandiose things. So some significant and some minor that helped you on your pathway. I'm curious, was there sort of a pivotal moment that you realized that changes have to be made today?
I mean, it was during, I don't know how detailed you want me to get. So we had this surprise October storm. I live in Western New York. It was October right around Columbus Day. And we had this ice storm. So we were without power for 5 days. I was bailing out my basement, so it didn't flood, and just, sleeping by the fireplace for warmth, and that kind of almost like camping in the house with these 2 little kids. And I just was kind of like losing my mind. I was like, I can't keep living like this. I need to learn how to ask for help. I need to be able to take care of myself so that I can show up better for my kids, because like I said, we've gotten in these habits of always rushing. I was always irritable. I was always just kind of like at the end of the day going, oh, that wasn't how I wanted them to be with me today.
Right.
And so it definitely kind of, I think, highlighted the fact that I don't think I was alone in that thing, in that kind of living our lifestyle this way, this hustle, this mindset of feeling like we always need to be available to everybody else before ourselves, that it's not okay to put ourselves on our to-do list the same way we do everything else. And I think burnout and just being kind of in that place of even on the brink of burnout has been so normalized. When you ask somebody, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, busy. And they just start listing off all the things they're doing, rather than really sharing how they are as a person. I think we've normalized that culture of needing that validation for outside external productivity versus that internal.
Got you. You talk about self-care, and clearly also what I'm hearing when you talk about self-care is that it's almost non-negotiable. It's like this thing that you have to have, you have to infuse, you have to work into your life schedule, what have you. How did you come to that realization that self-care was that important?
Mhm. Honestly, by starting to do some of what I thought of as the traditional kinds of self-care and starting to see not only the benefits for me, but honestly, it was the benefits I was seeing in my kids
Okay.
from doing those kind of things, that they were showing up different, that they were more relaxed. They weren't worried about, oh my gosh, is mom going to be in a bad mood when I show up, or things like that. As well as, you think of, we eat every single day, you sleep every single day. You wouldn't eat something on Sunday and think you're not going to be starving on Tuesday. And it's the same way with that self-care. We charge our phone every single day. We fill our car with gas. Taking care of ourselves, that self-care, it's not just something that's nice to have or a luxury. It's that day-to-day necessity that keeps us not only calm and in a good place, but keeps us recharged, keeps us motivated, builds our confidence, improves our productivity, our creativity, and that energy that we bring to every situation, that's contagious. And so you start to see, again, it's not about you, it's not selfish. It's about bringing that best version of you and the best to every situation that you're in. And so when I talk about self-care, it's not just massages and spa days and getaways, which are great to
Right.
have, but they're not sustainable on a day-to-day basis. And so when you're more intentional in looking at what is self-care, it's everything from how you sleep, how you eat, how you move, how you dress, how you decorate and organize your home, how you think about money, how you connect with others, as well as that traditional personal development like meditation, mindfulness, journaling,
Right.
and those types of things. And when you start to see the opportunities and the different areas it spans, it's not about adding more to your day, but adding that intention and being able to infuse that so many times throughout your day, even in 30 seconds to 1 minute or less. You can start integrating those micro moments where now you're showing up as your best self and able to respond when life happens rather than react, because it's that reaction that throws off our balance, that makes us feel out of kilter.
Yes, respond versus react. I love that. Intention. I love that word. Like you're being very, very intentional about what you do, and I think that's what helps to build a sustainability of it. Like it allows it to be because you're like, this is what I'm going to do today until it becomes. And then what's nice is you do that enough, and it becomes a habit, and it becomes unconscious. It's just something that you naturally do, and it becomes that thing that it's in your. So for example, if you work in your schedule, so like I like to do podcast interviews. I like to do them on Mondays and Fridays. That's kind of my day, and I kind of block it off and fit it into my schedule, whatnot have you. And it's now to the point where I don't have to consciously think about it. It's what it is. So I plan my whole life around. Well, I can't do this Monday from this time. This time I can't do Fridays from this time. This time because I'm being very intentional. So very, very similar. So now, so you build it up until a point where it's just natural and automatic, and that's what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely. That's that second part. So the first part, we work on your mindset. What are the stories you're telling yourselves? What are some of those narratives that are keeping you stuck in that place?
Yep.
And then we look at how you're scheduling your time. What kind of, schedule are you following? Is it kind of everything is important and urgent on your to-do list? In which case, then nothing is important and urgent. So you
Right.
look at your
Right.
priorities, making that intentional, and then also span kind of scheduling some buffer zone in between everything you have to do that, number one, allows life to happen, that work-life balance that I love to talk about, because it's not about everything being equal, but how you adapt, pivot, have resilience, and have boundaries, as well as then it gives you the free time for self-care. And like I said, it can be done in micro moments. For me, I bookend my day with me. I start my day with some movement and some mindfulness. And that can, on some days, only be 10 minutes. Maybe that's all I have, but there's a 5-minute yoga routine I can do. There's a 5-minute meditation. Some days I have 40 minutes. Some days I have longer. And same with my nighttime routine. I always read an actual book at the end of the day. Some days it's 3 sentences before I fall asleep. Some days it's 3 paragraphs. But it's the consistency of the fact that those things happen. Like you said, they're just on autopilot every single day is what makes them have that momentum and that power to stick with it and to have that consistency in those habits. And, but setting up these small micro things in your life that you're already doing. Maybe you're already grabbing your cup of coffee in the morning, but maybe for 30 seconds, you focus on how the mug feels, how the coffee smells, how it feels going down your throat. Science has shown just that small moment, your cortisol levels go down, your heart rate lowers. You add those continual moments throughout your day, you're continually putting your body in a better state. Plus, you're getting the dopamine hit of setting a goal and achieving it.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of again the intentionality for sure, because it really supports just let it happen and let it be, and you don't have to think about it. And then what it also does is it gives you the opportunity to take control of your day, and that can be very, very empowering, as
Mhm.
opposed to doing all these things that lead to burnout and you're feeling overwhelmed, right? So
Oh
it's very
yeah.
empowerment versus overwhelmed. Like I want to be empowered, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you don't want to be crashing on the couch thinking, I don't even know what I accomplished today. And I still feel like 100 million things I have to do.
Yeah.
We all want to have that sense of kind of success personally as well
Mhm.
as professionally. And so giving ourselves that grace, which I don't think we kind of realize how important it is, that grace of things don't always have to be perfect the first time, or just allowing ourselves to kind of be human is what allows us to take risks, which actually helps us be more successful than when we stay stuck in the same routines, even if they're not serving us.
You say risk, and I think of being audacious. I think there's a lot,
Yeah.
those two work hand in hand with one another, which is very much in line with the podcast.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so as we're sort of talking about sort of things like carving out time and building in routines and habits and things of that nature, I can't help but think about boundaries and how important it is to have or to establish boundaries, right? Like I think that's a sort of a nice follow and lead. Could you perhaps speak to one of the significance of boundaries in lives? I think we sort of touched on it a bit, but maybe expand a
Yeah.
bit further, and then also some things that as individuals that they can do to put these boundaries in place so they can have that consistency.
Yeah, I love boundaries. It's my favorite B word. I think they get a bad rap, but I also heard someone say once boundaries are a blessing. Boundaries are the things that actually gives you freedom. People think boundaries are a wall, a no, those bad things, but boundaries are the things that give you and everyone else around you the freedom of knowing when you're available, of showing up for yourself in addition to showing up for everyone else. So it's also saying yes. Yes to my morning routine every day is a boundary. Saying yes to my nighttime routine is a boundary. Saying yes to opportunities, as well as, even just having a simple outgoing email that says when you're available, it takes that guilt and expectation off when you put boundaries in place.
Right.
Imagine you were going to go to your favorite coffee shop and every time you showed up, they just weren't open because they didn't have their hours posted and you had no idea when they were open, when they were available. But by putting their hours out, which are their boundaries, that now gives you the freedom to plan your day around when they're open, and it gives them the freedom to then be closed when they're closed and open when they're open without any guilt or expectation. And I know that kind of oversimplifies it, but to put those same boundaries in place in our lives and communicating those boundaries gives people the freedom, releases you from that guilt of checking your email when you're at your kid's sporting event or feeling like you need to be available 24/7 just to show you're committed. It gives you that freedom to live your life, again, that audacious life that feels great for you and isn't just meeting everyone else's needs without your own being included in it. And so start by saying putting some small boundaries in place. In general, I think when people are trying to integrate new, whether it's routines, habits, you think of New Year's resolutions, we go too big too fast. And when we go too big too fast, that's
Mhm.
where sometimes it can be
Right.
hard and set ourselves up for failure. And so by starting super small, whether it's by putting a new habit in place, putting a new boundary in place, start small and then build on it. And that's going to be how you are able to then build the real boundaries around your time, your space, your life that you're looking to have. So it might just be, answering a not answering a phone call and letting it go to voicemail, even though you're sitting right there, but you were in the middle of working on another project. Putting that protection around your time, it's so small and simple, but it starts to put those boundaries in place of I respect my time, setting that outgoing email of what your work hours are and when you're going to respond to that email relieves you of that responsibility of always having to check. Even just putting
Mhm.
boundaries in place with your family. This is my time in the morning. I need 20 minutes to myself. And, it might take some time and practice communicating it, but the more you communicating it, it not only puts kind of what you need, but it shows everybody else how to treat you. It shows and models what you need, as well as, as a parent, for me, my kids are in their 20s now. It taught them how to take care of themselves. It taught them, this is the culture we live in. This is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to manage our stress so that we don't get to the point of burnout and things like that. And so you create the culture in your family, in your company, in your department, as far as how you show up and put those boundaries in place.
You touched on I referenced work email, and I love to sort of get into that work-life balance, and you sort of talked about that, and you said it's not always equal. I wonder if you could sort of expand on that, because I think that's a significant point.
Yeah, people don't always love the word balance because, again, it triggers that scale image of people thinking everything has to be
It's got to be
equal.
fair. It's got to be fair, right?
Yeah, or work-life flow or work-life harmony. Like, we are our work in our life. That's part of who we are, regardless of whether we're an entrepreneur, business owner, all those kind of things. But having that work-life balance to me means your ability to adapt, pivot, have resilience, and have boundaries, because life's going to happen. And so, your work-life flow and harmony has to come from, how are you able to handle when unexpected things come up? Can you adapt? Can you keep rolling through your day, or do you unpack and stay there and make that, defining the whole thing? Can you pivot? Can you see options throughout your day? Or are you so tunnel vision? What's your mindset? Is it a growth mindset, or is it, that inflexible kind of mindset? So we want that growth of options, the resilience, our mental fitness. I talk a lot about people, they get what physical fitness is. We're building strength so that we can handle, climbing the stairs, chasing our kids, doing all sorts of things. We need to build our mental fitness, not because, we all have mental wellness, mental fitness. And so you need to practice these same repetitions, just like you would at the gym, to build that strength to handle what life throws at you, so you can bounce back, so you can keep rolling and be able to cope and handle with things. And then again, those boundaries are key at being able to kind of, like you said before, take control and be able to really manage your day from a place of intention, so that you know exactly what are your maybe 2 or 3 biggest priorities that day. What kind of space do you have in between to handle things? And how do you want to feel at the end of the day, so that you can look back at, say, your schedule for the last week and realize, how much time was there for you? What did you do that week that lit you up, that you were excited about, that connected you with others, that, were things that you wanted in there? And if you can look back the next week and see yourself, that's great. If not, that might be then one place to start of, okay, how can I start infusing more intention and more me in my day?
I very much like the way that you sort of simplified that, because I think the challenge for a lot of people is they feel or believe that this first step is this big grandiose thing, like it's this cavernous leap that I've got to make, and if they're bite-sized and digestible and manageable, it's easier to kind of get started, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the very first thing, a lot of times I tell people, and you guys can steal this, let's start with a 1-minute self-care practice. You're going to set a reminder on your phone to go off, and then you're going to set a timer for 1 minute. And during that 1 minute, you're not scrolling on social media, checking your emails, throwing in a load of laundry. You're just going to sit there for 1 minute. It's amazing how long a minute can feel when you're not doing anything else. And you might do some shoulder shrugs. You might do some box breathing. You might drink some water and be hydrated. But again, that's where, like I said, science has shown your heart rate's going to go down, your cortisol levels are going to go down, as well as, now say you set that reminder to go off 5 times that day, you have a 5-minute self-care practice. So you get the dopamine hit of, you set a goal and you achieve it. Maybe you're sitting there for 1 minute and you're like, you know what, I got 2 minutes. I got 3 minutes, and you start to build so incredibly small. Maybe you're sitting in line at the grocery store and you find yourself, doing some of these practices. You can park at the further parking space. Now you're adding movement into your day. There's so many small micro moments and micro ways to start noticing and implementing these different practices. I talk about how you dress as part of your self-care. We build our confidence based on how we feel when we walk into the room. And that energy, like I said, is contagious. And so being intentional about dressing in a way that feels good for you, clothes that, fit you right, that you're not always tugging at, that kind of thing. It's small and it's simple, but you're going to feel better throughout your day knowing you look better. Our home is our sanctuary. That's where we start and end our day. And so it doesn't have to be Martha Stewart perfect or anything like that, but it has to feel good to you, and decorate and have colors and different elements, whether it's candles, music, sounds, scents that feel good to you. Start to have those differences throughout your day. So yeah, starting small, starting simple, and then being consistent with it. Like I said, that 1 minute practice and just doing that once a day for 5 days.
Yep.
That's all you need to do to start.
Sounds easy to me. I mean, why
Yeah.
not, right? Something else that I think would be easy for our listeners is to check out your book, Balance Breakthrough. A couple of B words there.
Yeah.
That I know you're a fan of letter B. It sounds like, but I'd love to sort of hear, what you hope is a key takeaway for listeners that they can like
Yeah.
institute now, kind of deal.
I wrote this book because honestly, I don't want to gatekeep any of this. Like I'm so passionate about sharing this with everybody. And, whether you listen, I have a podcast as well, whether you listen to podcasts, whether you go on social media, to get this information to everybody's possible. So I throw everything that I teach one-on-one into this book. It's broken into 2 parts. We start with the beginning and talk about what is burnout, what is work-life balance, what is mental fitness. And then the second part, I walk you through your mindset, your time planning, and your self-care. And it's kind of a very actionable kind of playbook for you to not just digest all at once, but to
Yep.
do in pieces, to kind of read a couple pages and then start doing the actions, start doing the activities. There's a digital workbook that goes with it because I really want you to see how practical this can be,
Mhm.
how easy it can be to integrate it into your day-to-day life in some small, manageable steps. So I'm so excited to just share all this with everybody. So thank you so much for bringing that up. You can definitely grab a copy on Amazon.
I definitely could feel your excitement, which is a wonderful. I'm curious. Now that we've had, life is a wonderful thing because it can offer perspective. And now that you've had the perspective of your experiences, what you've gone through, is there a single or maybe 1 or 2 sort of pieces of advice that maybe you wish you were told about self-care and personal, how we take care of ourselves personally, that you
Yeah.
had been told? Is there maybe 1 or 2 things? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I think we all are. You don't do it once and then you're done.
Right,
I think we
right,
all kind of grow and do different things. Like I said, as I've been on this journey with my kids, it's something we've definitely talked about intentionally now that they're in their early 20s to kind of see, where could I have even done better? How could,
right.
what do they need? I think learning and being curious and being open to, again, just having that grace of not always being perfect is such an eye opener to growth and to being
Yes.
able to do better. I think definitely helping people learn how to start taking care of themselves and prioritize themselves is something I see. I also work full time at a high school. I'm a counselor. I'm a social worker there. And so I see with young people, the amount of stress we're under, especially from technology, the demands of always being on, of always, how do we
Right.
take care of ourselves in this digital age? It's very different than, when I was growing up pre-technology. And so learning, I think, how to set some of those boundaries in a way is really healthy as far as managing anxiety, managing stress, managing coping skills, so that you don't get to that place of burnout and you start to feel kind of like I said in the beginning, like you get one life and you are living the life you want to live every
Right.
single day. And so I wish someone would have talked to me about doing these things definitely forever ago, but
Yeah.
it's never too late to start,
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I want the point you made around mental fitness earlier, which I think is a significant one. And I love the idea of fitness in within the context of this conversation, because really what it speaks to is that it's an ongoing process, right? Like, those who are in the peak physical shape are still working out. Right? So it's something that you're always doing. And the same can be applied to sort of our mental fitness and what we do for ourselves. You don't stop and go, okay, I'm mentally fit. Let's go.
Right.
Right. Like it's
I ate a
an ongoing
salad today.
process.
I'm healthy. I'm good. No, you
Yeah.
keep doing it every day, and it's in different ways. It's what you consume, So with physical fitness, we look at how you eat, how you move, and those kind of things. Mental fitness it's also how we eat, how it affects our blood sugar, how we move, how it, releases endorphins. They say the 5 people you're around the most have such a huge impact on your life and who you are. So
Right.
what are you consuming, when it comes to information, what kind of people you're talking with, are they talking from a negative standpoint? Are they talking about gossip, or are they coming from a place of curiosity and information and filling you up and those kind of things? So just looking at what are you practicing on a day-to-day basis
Yeah.
to maintain your mental and physical wellness, because they're so connected. You look at that mind-body connection, that gut-mind connection of,
Yep.
you may not be nervous about something, but you're going to feel a stomach ache and not always connect where that's coming from. Or you blame the activity, the outside thing for your anxiety without realizing how you're processing, how you're thinking is affecting it. Because when you think differently, you feel differently. When you feel differently, you act differently. And so that's part of how this foundation is built when I work with clients also.
I love it. I love it. When we talk about burnout prevention and self-care, I guess in that field, it's something that's being talked about a lot more, or it's recognized and talked a lot more. I'm curious, are there, I don't know, any sort of new trends or new things coming down the pipe that excites you and sort of in this field?
I think definitely the fact that it's just talked about more, the number of businesses that I work with and come into who are like, how can we help our employees thrive personally? Because they see the benefits of, when you focus on the culture at the workplace and working with the employee, not only does the employee do better, but your numbers go up as
Yes.
far as productivity, financially, success levels. Also, sick days go down, employee turnover goes down, those kind of things. And so the benefits to businesses, they're seeing, okay, we need to think beyond just us as a business, but we need to focus on the relationships with our people at all levels, not just management, not just leadership, but at all levels. And I really love the fact that that is at the forefront of so many companies nowadays, because I think you're seeing then families, that are happier, individuals that are happier, as well as how it just affects overall, success for everyone.
Mm-hmm. I also appreciate you mentioning that you're a social worker in schools, and so you're still working full time. And so the idea of having two sort of careers happening at the same time speaks to the importance of the work that you're doing in itself, because you're showing by example that it's quite possible to have a really, really busy life and still have work-life balance. And work-life, as you said earlier, is not equal or 50-50. And so I think that you're shining proof of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. I seem like I do more, but I actually am doing less in so many ways as far as, having more boundaries in place. I have, more, not only more boundaries, but I have more integration of self-care every day. I do so many other things, but I'm achieving more because I've gotten rid of the kind of the fluff. I've gotten rid of the noise of the things that aren't necessarily important and manage my time in a way that it's not overwhelming.
Got you. I love it. I love it. Um, I mean, I'm curious about a message you have for our listeners who are feeling, overwhelmed and looking to take that first step right now. Outside of connecting with directly or getting a copy of your book, what can they do?
Like I said, give yourself the grace to just start small. Pick one thing, whether it's something you've been meaning to do, someone you were meaning to text and reconnect with, and just do that one thing. And that's
Right.
it. And walk away. Pick one small thing, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's about just starting and each day, starting something, doing the
Yes.
one thing each day. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start again. It's not like, oh, I tried it and it didn't work. Sometimes we need to allow ourselves that trial and error in order to find what works best for us. And depending on whatever season of life we're in, that might look different. So allowing yourself to just pick one thing,
Yep.
do it for you, do it every day, and it'll grow.
I love it. I love it. And again, I said before, nice and simple and easy, and just go with it. So, which is awesome. For listeners that want to connect with you directly, learn more about your work, or check out your podcast, where can we send them?
Absolutely. So my podcast is Bestie Life with Daniela. It's on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, all those kind of things. My website is the best place to find me, bestdlife.com. You can also connect with me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Very, very cool. We'll make sure that all those contact details are in the show notes below. And again, I would encourage listeners to connect with you to start that process of your own self-care journey. And you also got a quiz too. I think I saw a reference to a quiz that helps people assess where they are in their sort of burnout journey or their personal
Yeah. Are
journey.
you
Yeah.
on the brink of a burnout? Because that's the thing. Stress, we're always going to have stress. Stress is
Yes.
normal. It's
Great
when we
point.
cross that line
Yes.
from managing stress to going to burnout. So this quiz is a great way to kind of catch yourself and see, am I going too far? Am I pushed to the edge? And then some simple strategy, it'll give you some simple strategies afterwards of what to do differently and how to start kind of undoing some of those maybe habits we've gotten into.
Got you. Well, again, Danielle, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the time. Congratulations on again your own personal journey, and I love the fact that you've now taken your own lessons and using it to help your clients and get them to the better place. That's awesome. And thank you for being a guest today here on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you so much, Audley. It's been a great time.
Welcome back. It was a great and insightful conversation with Daniela. One of the main notes that stood out for me was her belief that self-care isn't a solo act. It's part of a full composition of a meaningful life. And by weaving small acts of care into our days, we create rhythm and balance that help us perform at our best. What I love most about this interview with Daniela was her genuine passion for helping others find their own tempo. Her reminder that we all have the ability to rewrite our score no matter where we are in life is powerful, very empowering, as well as liberating. If you'd like to connect with Daniela and learn more about her, visit bestdlife.com or follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where she continues to share valuable resources as well as inspiration. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, let's return to our orchestra. And remember, living audaciously means being both a composer and a conductor of your life, choosing your tempo, setting your tone, and ensuring every note aligns with who you truly are. When you set boundaries, you keep your rhythm steady. When you practice self-care, you stay in tune. When you shift your mindset, you open up space for new harmonies to form. And when you embrace micro moments, you allow the silence to make the music more meaningful. So thank you for being a part of this symphony of bold living. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, or share it with others who might benefit. Together, we can keep the music of audacity playing loud and clear. If you haven't already, and again, as always, I thank you. If you haven't already, I encourage you to connect with others and have them be part of this conversation if they're looking to live their best audacious life. Until next time, keep conducting your life boldly and keep living audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious.